welcome. I'm Harriet Admini. Tonight, at least 3 people are feared dead following a clash between members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria and soldiers in Zaria, Kaduna, northeast Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari canvasses the teaching of entrepreneurship in the nation's tertiary institutions as a panacea to the growing unemployment in the country. Governor Tanko Al-Makura flags off the construction of a 17 billion naira international cargo airport in the state capital, Lafia. And countries attending the climate change summit in Paris agree to limit the rise in global temperatures to less than 2 degrees by 2050 after 2 weeks of negotiations. And on business news tonight, ahead of November inflation data release, some analysts forecast the index to remain unchanged at 9.3%.
And on sports news tonight, it's sweet finish for Team Nigeria at the CAF Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations, beating Algeria to win the title.
At least 3 people are feared dead and several others wounded following a bloody clash between some armed soldiers and members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, popularly called the Shiites, in Zaria, Kaduna State. Spokesman of the Nigerian Army, Colonel Sani Usman, in a statement, explained that members of the sect attacked a convoy of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, who was on his way to pay homage to the Emir of Zazzau and attending the passing out parade of 73 regular recruits intake of the Nigerian Army Depot, Zaria. He said the sect members, numbering hundreds and carrying dangerous weapons, barricaded the roads with bonfires, heavy stones and tires, and refused all entities to disperse. According to him, the barricade was a deliberate attempt to assassinate the Chief of Army Staff and members of his entourage. Meanwhile, spokesman of the Shiites, Ibrahim Usman, told our correspondent that the incident occurred when a convoy of armed soldiers opened fire on the group as they were hoisting the sect's flag to usher in the month of Rabiul Awal at the Husdayiniya Bakiyatullah area of the city. Mr. Usman also debunked reports that the group attempted to attack the convoy of the Army Staff, of the Chief of Army Staff, stating that the clash was only between his group and some overzealous soldiers. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, has appealed for calm among residents of the state following the clash between the sect members and the military. In a statement by his spokesman, Samuel Arwan, the governor reassured the people that the situation has been brought under control. Security has been beefed up in Zaria to prevent a further breakdown of law and order. Worried by the neglect they suffer from government, internally displaced persons in the Malky Camp in Adamawa State are calling on the federal and state governments as well as foreign donors for help. Our correspondent Victor Matthias, who visited the camp, tells us more.
The Malky IDP Camp is situated a few kilometers from the one set up by the government in Yola, the Adamawa state capital. No security, healthcare center, electricity and other social basic amenities, and the people get little or no donations from government, NGOs and international bodies. With 215 households, 777 children, excluding male and women, these people find solace here after being sacked from their ancestral homes by Boko Haram terrorists. Husseini Bukar fell from a truck while fleeing from the Boko Haram terrorists. After carrying this metal on his leg for 2 years, he has contemplated suicide to end the pain he experiences daily.
Na rasa ya nake ciki ina kashe raina ma zai yi ba saboda ina tsoron Allah yanzu har kwatar na manaje zan sha magani feshi ina tsoron Allah saboda na mutu Allah zai kunce ni ina kashe raina.
Abandoned by the NGO that took up his medical bill initially, he cries for help.
Ina roƙon Allah ina roƙon jama'a goma a taimaka min da girma Allah taimakon da nake nema wajen jama'a Najeriya gaba da musulmi da Kirista na neman taimaka wajen su taimaka min su raba ni da abin nan wahalar da na shiga cikin su taimaka min da girma Allah.
Ina ke maka
diresin nan dama Gombe na kai mana aiki da aka yi mai aiki a Gombe nan ba sa to ina ga yan wasu kuma ba sa karfi a cikin biyan kuɗi maganar likita ba yanzu wayannan kuma wayannan suna diresin nan taimaka min ne daga nan asibitin na Malky.
The Adamawa state government, however, says it's aware of the IDPs in this camp, but to integrate them into the society, the proper channel has to be followed.
We are aware of the fact that they are opening up new settlements, and so when the information gets to government through the proper channels, we recognize them as a settlement, and then we will take necessary measures to integrate them into the system. But these ones are still living as internally displaced persons in Goza, in Adamawa, but they are Goza people essentially. So this is as far as we are concerned.
The Adamawa and Borno state governments may have to liaise with each other to determine the fate of these people, but until then, they remain exposed to dangers that come with living in such a condition. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has reiterated that the military is working towards meeting this month's deadline to root out Boko Haram insurgents from the northeastern part of the country. He made the remarks at the passing out parade of 477 recruits of the Basic Military Training Course 34 at the Nigerian Air Force Base in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria. He says the Air Force is sparing no efforts to stamp out terrorism and bring back the much-needed peace and stability.
After 6 months of training in basic military skills and general orientation of the Nigerian Air Force, over 400 recruits took part in the 34th passing out parade of the Air Force Ground Training Center in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria. The arrival of the Chief of Air Staff, who also doubles as the parade's reviewing officer, kickstarts the event, which began with a colorful march past. Addressing the graduating students, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar commended them for enduring their tough training, which he says will prepare them for the challenges ahead. He reminded the recruits that they are joining the Air Force at a time that the nation is facing daunting security challenges.
You must do the nation proud by maintaining the highest standards of professionalism, decency, and discipline. You are aware of the internal security challenges facing our country today. As part of the efforts to prepare you for the task ahead, and in pursuance of our concept of mission-oriented force development, the curriculum of your course was reviewed with the introduction of the internal security module.
The Air Force Chief also gave an assurance that the welfare, training and retraining of officers and men of the service remains the cardinal objective of his leadership, but warned that the federal government will not tolerate indiscipline from anyone.
You must take judicious use of the resources that the service will put into your care and avoid wastage and negligence. I want to emphasize that again. I can assure you that the Air Force in turn will look into your welfare needs, especially now that Mr. President has taken remarkable steps to improve on the welfare and operational readiness of the Nigerian Armed Forces.
Much is expected from the Nigerian Air Force in the fight against insurgency and other related crime across the country. So already, expectations are high that these young airmen and women will complement the efforts of their colleagues already in the field.
One way Nigeria can tackle increasing unemployment in the country is for tertiary institutions to promote entrepreneurship training and courses in their academic curriculum. This is coming from the president, who says this will enable students become self-reliant upon graduation rather than waiting endlessly for white-collar jobs. President Muhammadu Buhari said this during the second combined convocation ceremony of Kaduna State University, where he was conferred with an honorary doctorate degree.
One of the focal points of this administration is job creation. Job creation helps in achievement of one of the focal points of this administration is job creation. Job creation helps in achievement of other objectives of the government, such as poverty reduction and security, which are some of the challenges this administration is confronted with. Insecurity cannot be divorced from unemployment and poverty, because an idle mind, they say, is the devil's workshop. This administration will ensure that youth in the country are gainfully employed and youth restiveness curtailed. With declining internally generated revenue and over-dependence on the equally declining oil revenues, there is need to seek other ways of diversifying the economy so as to boost internal revenue. While celebrating your achievements today, let me remind you that these are trying moments for both our nation and the rest of the world socio-economically. You are therefore charged to apply what you've learned here to make a contribution to solving the challenges of our world. As you compete globally, always make the extra effort to give back to the society more than what you've gained from it.
In part 2, after the break, a look at Nigeria's preparedness to tackle the spread of the HIV/AIDS pandemic and stopping the stigma among those living with the virus. Do stay with us.